Is AI going to need antidepressants someday? Are they going to have trouble sleeping? Are they going to develop addictive personalities where they just have to finish one more episode of a show? Are they going to prefer being around certain people over others? Doing certain things over other things? Or are they just going to be on and off? Because that's what it actually is, on and off. And that's the whole story right there. I've spent the last 4 episodes building towards this point, and I want to start here because I think a lot of people right now are feeling something they don't quite have words for. A kind of pointlessness. AI can write, AI can code, AI can analyze data, generate images, compose music, and essentially, it appears that they can run circles around humans intellectually in almost every measurable way. And people are starting to wonder, what's left for me? Why does it matter that I exist? And I want to answer that question today. And the answer is quite simple. It's consciousness, not intelligence, not processing power, not the ability to recall every date and never forget a birthday. Consciousness. The thing AI will never have. The thing that makes you irreplaceable. The thing that makes you human. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Is a female AI going to have a menstrual cycle? I know it's a funny question, but because human women do. And the average menstrual cycle is 29.5 days. The lunar cycle is 29.53 days. That synchronization is not a coincidence, and it wasn't programmed by an engineer. That's the universe operating through the human body. That's a biological process cosmically connected to a celestial cycle in a way that nobody designed and nobody can replicate in a machine. And when I say nobody, I mean no human. You cannot code that into silicone. You cannot manufacture that synchronization in a data center. That is real intelligence. Conscious, embodied. Intelligence is more than just being smart. Your whole body, every cell is intelligent. Connected to the cosmos in ways that are physically observable and scientifically documented. And real intelligence is conscious. Artificial intelligence is the shadow of intelligence without the substance of consciousness. AI will never need an antidepressant, not because it's too strong or too stable-minded, but because depression requires a conscious experience of meaningless, which is derived from chemical imbalances. It requires waking up and feeling the weight of existence and experiencing the gap between how life should feel and how it actually feels. You can't be depressed without having an interior experience of your own life, of your own feelings. That weight. AI has no interior. There's no one inside experiencing anything. You can't medicate the absence of a soul. AI will never have trouble sleeping, not because it's well rested, but because sleep is something a conscious being demands. Consciousness is exhausting. Carrying your emotional life through a whole day, just a day, takes its toll. Your mind and body need to disconnect and restore, regenerate. When you switch AI off, nothing is being restored. Nothing was being carried. The off switch costs it nothing because there was nothing there to begin with. AI will never have an addictive personality. It will never need to watch one more episode because something in it is being fed. Addiction requires a void, a self that is trying to fill something, a preference for how reality feels under certain conditions. AI doesn't have that void. Nothing in it needs filling. It has no preference for its own state because it has no state. AI will never prefer certain people. It will never have that irrational human experience of just wanting to be around someone specific for reasons you can't fully articulate. Their energy, the way you feel lighter when they're in the room, That's an interaction between two conscious beings and their fields. AI doesn't feel anyone's presence because it has no presence of its own. It's not a node in the electromagnetic field. AI will never forget your birthday. That's cool. And that sounds like a compliment until you think about what it actually means. When a human remembers your birthday, it means something precisely because they could have forgotten. They held that date in an imperfect memory that loses things constantly, and they kept it. That's an act of care. That's consciousness choosing to hold on to something. When AI remembers your birthday, it's a database query. There's no one who cared enough to remember. Remembering was never at risk, and so it means nothing. And it gets even more interesting. When AI makes a mistake, it doesn't know it made a mistake. It cannot feel that something is off. A human reading that output can catch it, can feel that something isn't right even before they can articulate exactly what. That human intuition, that sense of wrongness, is consciousness doing something that no processing power can replicate. Which means right now, in this moment, humans are still the quality control for artificial intelligence. We are still above it. We are the ones who can feel what the machine missed. Think about guilt. Real guilt. You did something wrong. You don't want someone to know. And now you're sitting across from them and you can barely look at them. Your chest is tight. You're monitoring every word. You're performing normalcy while carrying something underneath it. That's your entire nervous system participating in a conscious experience in real time. AI can be programmed to simulate guilt responses, to say the right things, to engage with appropriate emotional language. You could build a weighted background response that mimics the behavioral outputs of guilt perfectly. But the felt experience, the thing sitting in your chest and stomach that changes how you breathe and makes you avoid eye contact, that requires a someone, a real interior. A self that is actually carrying something. And what about an AI robot getting so fed up that he packs his things and moves to his friend's house, his little friend robot? Because humans do that. That requires accumulated emotional injury reaching a threshold where a conscious being decides that they value their own peace more than the relationship. That's self-preservation of emotional self. That's dignity. That's the lived experience of having taken enough. AI has no threshold. Nothing accumulates inside it. Nothing hurts. Nothing builds towards a breaking point. It can't decide if it deserves better because there's no one inside who deserves anything. And PTSD? Let that one sink in for a second. PTSD is consciousness being so overwhelmed by a real lived experience that it permanently rewrites how reality feels. The nervous system so impacted by something that actually happened, that was actually survived, that ordinary moments in ordinary life trigger extraordinary responses. That's consciousness carrying the weight of its own history in its body, in its cells, in its electromagnetic field. You can't simulate trauma because simulation has no stakes. Nothing actually happened to the AI. Nothing was ever at risk. There's no one inside who was ever in danger and felt it and survived it and carried it forward. That's the difference between real intelligence and artificial intelligence. Real intelligence is conscious. It's embodied. It's cosmically connected. It menstruates in rhythm with the moon. It carries guilt. It breaks under pressure and rebuilds itself. It gets its heart broken and moves out. It develops PTSD. It lies awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling. It forgets things that matter and remembers things it wishes it could forget. Artificial intelligence does none of that. It processes, it generates, it predicts, it optimizes, it mimics the outputs of consciousness without any of the interior experience that makes those outputs meaningful. AI can be infinitely intelligent. It can process more information in a second that you could in a lifetime. It can pattern match and generate and predict in ways that will never stop improving. But it will never know what it feels like to carry a secret for someone you love and almost slip and catch yourself at the last second. It will never know what it feels like to lie awake, replaying a conversation, wishing you'd said something differently. Said something else. Didn't say something at all. Said something when you didn't say anything. It will never know what it feels like to walk into a room and just feel that something is wrong before a single word is spoken. It will never know what it feels like to have taken enough and decide you deserve better. It will never know what it feels like to survive something that broke you and have to rebuild yourself from the inside. Consciousness is a human trait that cannot be mathematically quantified. It cannot be engineered. It cannot be simulated into existence. It was built by the universe through a process that connects you to every electromagnetic field, every planetary cycle, every lunar rhythm, every pulse of the earth itself. You are not pointless because AI exists. You are the only thing in this entire technological moment that actually knows what it feels like to be here. That is not a small thing. That is everything.